Hey y'all, it's Jennifer. Welcome back to my channel. Today I am coming to you with a reading vlog, but it is a themed reading vlog. It is the second in a series that I intended to really carry on with last year, but this is called Is It Still a Favorite? And basically in this series, I am going back and rereading books that I have always considered my favorite books of all time. And I am analyzing whether or not I would still rate them as a favorite book. This is going to be kind of an interesting interlude in that series, even though it's the second in this series. My first was on Interview with the Vampire, which is still my favorite book of all time. But I have a list of kind of how I would like to do this series and how I would like to go back over favorite reads from past years. And I wanted to do something really fun as the second Is It Still a Favorite? So the theme for today's vlog, as I'm sure you can tell from the title, is actually going to be all about me rereading manga. And this was always intended to be part 2 in the Is It Still a Favorite series, because manga is a medium and a style that I was really into as a teenager and actually made up the bulk of my reading when I was, say, 13, 14 years old. I had my weeb phase, as I'm sure basically everyone did when they were in high school. It is not something that I have ever revisited in my adult life. And I just think that it's really time to kind of go back to things that brought me a lot of joy when I was younger, just to see if they still hold the same fun and allure for me today. The unfortunate thing about this, though, is that I never owned manga for the most part because it was a very expensive hobby to have. In fact, it still is. So I actually always borrowed series from friends of mine that did collect manga and had massive manga collections. And so I actually have no record of all of the series that I read. I know that I really enjoyed, for the most part, everything that I read, but I don't know what some of the smaller series were, unfortunately, that I really enjoyed because I always borrowed them. So I'm sure there are some smaller series that were really big, 2005, 2006, when I was really reading this, that I'm sure by now I have completely forgotten. And the sad thing is, the ones that I'm going to read for this vlog, I also have largely forgotten what the plot of them is, and I've forgotten characters' names. And so I think that's going to make this really fun because it's almost going to be like reading these things for the first time. I have 3 volume 1s of different manga series that I want to get to in this vlog. One of these is predicated on me finding it because I do actually own volume 1 of this series, and this is the series I would say is my absolute favorite. That series is called Fushigi Yugi, and to my memory, this was basically about 2 girls in high school or something like that that kind of fell through a portal into a fantasy world, and there were so many different love interests. And one of the love interests I just was literally obsessed with, and I can't remember his name for the life of me, but I still can picture him because he had this long, beautiful, straight black hair. I still can picture him vividly. I do have volume 1 of that because the friend of mine that I borrowed the series from knew that I loved it and gave me the first volume for my birthday one year when I was in high school. And I have no earthly idea where that is. This goes into just the larger conversation around the bookshelf overhaul series that I'm doing. I have no clue what I have because I have no organization. And so I have looked in all of the places that I assumed a book the size of a volume 1 of manga might be, and I cannot find it, though I know I would never have gotten rid of it. The sad thing is, maybe I did purge it, but if I did, I know that was on accident. So Fushigi Yugi is actually a maybe here. Maybe I can track down volume 1 of that used. This was difficult for me with the other 2. I could not find volume 1 of either one of these used or for a decent price. And so I indulged just because I feel like I'm really going to love this. And so other than Fushigi Yugi, my favorite manga series was Fruits Basket. I love this, and I still love this to this day. And there is a character in this series who I think of literally every time someone mentions leeks and like putting leeks in a recipe, because he hates leeks so much. And I always was like, as a child, I was always wondering, like, why do you hate them so much? Like, how often do they turn up? But I think of him every time I think about leeks. And so Fruits Basket is kind of like an urban fantasy, I guess we would say, in that this girl, I think, has basically been kicked out of her family home or something like that. And she is taken in by this family of 3 guys. Like, they have a guardian, and then it's the 2 boys. And they can shift into animals from the Chinese zodiac. And that happens when you hug them. I remember that. And the one that I had a crush on, his name started with a Y. And I got nothing else. So my memory of this is just that I genuinely loved it. The other guy's name is Kyo, and he's the one who hates leeks. And it's shocking to me that after all these years, Kyo is very vivid in my memory. Like, I remember certain scenes, and I remember how this series ended. I feel like I was kind of disappointed by it. But this is the one that I feel like I'm still going to love. If I love any manga again today as an adult, it's going to be Fruits Basket. I'm just feeling it. And so this is the collector's edition, volume 1. It's massive. It's really big to be manga, which is normally about this size. So I don't really know if this is an updated version of the story that I read. I don't know if it's kind of like compiling a couple of volumes in one. This is still very, very popular. I was, as a teenager, and I still am, basic. And so if something's popular, I probably also like it. So I, along with everyone else, just adore Fruits Basket. And I'm excited. This is the one that I just feel like I'm going to still love. I hope it's fun and cute, and I hope I still really enjoy it. Now, the interesting thing is, when you talk about manga, you can also have the conversation around anime. And I was never an anime girly, and I don't think I ever will become one. I just feel like I have enough fixations, you know? I have enough obsessions, okay? I don't need anything else to just utterly consume my life. I say all of this to say there is an exception. There was an anime that I watched every single day when I was a child. I'm sure many of you know where this is going. I loved this anime. I watched it until the end, and I actually have never read the manga of this. So this is kind of, in a weird way, me experimenting with, is it still a favorite? So in actuality, I never read the manga. I feel like I did read certain volumes of this manga. It was not in order, and it was just all over the place. And so I got this beautiful, I mean, this is stunning, this beautiful edition of Sailor Moon, okay? I love Sailor Moon, and let's talk about it in the comments down below. I love her. I think she is hilarious. My favorite sailor, though, is actually, I think controversially, Sailor Mercury. And I am going to be interested to see if my feelings change as I read the manga. This is also absolutely massive to be manga. This is a collector's edition, and it is called the Eternal Edition. So I don't really have much memory of how this started, and I'm really excited. I just am really excited about this because I have such fond memories of Sailor Moon. Like, Sailor Moon was something that came on at 6:30 every day when I was in elementary school, and I was up watching that. So I also indulged, and I got this Sailor Moon coloring book, which I guess is for kids because it was only like $4. But I love that there's like this blank page on the back, so I feel like I can use my alcohol markers in this. I am really excited. There he is, the love of my life, Tuxedo Mask. Like, did we not all have a crush on him? If you watch Sailor Moon, were you not into him? I'm just excited. I really got this because manga, which I didn't even explain. If you're unfamiliar with manga, it is, I don't want to call it a Japanese comic book, but these are Japanese basically graphic novels, let's call it like that. And so we recognize their illustrations as very comic-like, but they are never colored. So they are often in black and white. There will often be, though, some illustrated colored images at the beginning of manga. In Japan, they read from right to left. So you technically read this from this side over, which is very, very strange to get used to when you have never done it before, but it's very natural once you do it the first time. And so I remember the sailors by the colors of their outfits and the colors of their hair. And since this is in black and white, as you can see, I think I'm going to struggle to keep them apart. So I got the coloring book to just first of all have fun, but second of all to make sure that I have a reference for who characters are. I feel like I'm really going to love this. Sailor Moon is geared towards a younger audience. A lot of manga is geared towards adults, but I feel like Sailor Moon was always intended to be for a younger audience. If I remember correctly, Sailor Moon herself is 14 when this starts. I'm excited. I think this one is going to be a big success. I really feel like both of these I am going to still consider favorites. This is kind of a brand new journey for me with Sailor Moon, but Fruits Basket is tried and true. And if I had to pick a manga series just blind to recommend to someone, I still feel like I would say Fruits Basket. I hope you will join me with this experiment. I know this is very different for my channel, but I'm really looking forward just to having a little bit of fun this week as I delve into these. And so I think I am going to get ready, start reading, and maybe I'm gonna start coloring, and I will check in with you and let you know how this is going later. Well, bad news. I cannot find volume 1 of Fushigi Yugi anywhere. I'm really concerned about that because I just don't feel as though it's one that I ever would have gotten rid of. You know what I'm saying? I feel like as a gift from a friend, and like a friend I've known for 15 years, that book is somewhere in this house. The question is where I've put it. So once again, that's why I'm doing kind of the bookshelf overhaul series. So I know it will turn up again somewhere. It's just not going to be included in this vlog, sadly enough. But I did start Sailor Moon, and I think I'm 1 or 2 books in or chapters in. I'm really enjoying it right off the bat. I do feel as though it's definitely a series that skews kind of younger. And so if you're looking for a recommendation kind of in the middle grade realm, I still think that Sailor Moon really works for that age bracket because that's certainly when I got into it. But I'm loving this so far. Like, one of the funny things about it though is that the love interest, this guy they call Tuxedo Mask, like in my memory, to my mind, that's like a nickname that she came up with for him because they didn't know who he was. They had no clue what his identity was, but he literally just introduced himself to her and he was like, "Hey, I'm Tuxedo Mask." And I'm like, "You came up with that name yourself?" That was the name you came up with. But there is still a mystery to who he is, and I personally don't remember anything about that. I don't remember who he was, and in fact, I don't even remember like when he was unmasked. And so this is just really fun for me because I've basically forgotten everything about it for the most part, but I'm really enjoying it. I started using my coloring book yesterday and I am just absolutely loving it. I really am. It's a very fast read. It feels like one that I'm probably going to get through pretty quickly and then I can move on into Fruits Basket, but I'm pretty disappointed that I can't find my volume 1 of Fushigi Yugi. It feels like 3 books would have made a lot of sense for a themed vlog, but that's okay. It will turn up again one day. I know that it will. So I'm going to continue on reading Sailor Moon and possibly I will finish that today. I will check in with you later. I haven't updated y'all in a couple of days, actually in a few days. It's just been in general busy. Like, I literally don't know where my evenings go. I truly don't, because I don't know what I spend time doing. Actually, I do know. I have been trying to make K-pop Polaroids. So like basically a Polaroid picture with like their face in it. This is really, really popular in the K-pop journaling community. And I have done it 3 times this week. It takes me an untold amount of time to fix the Polaroid template, like to get a template, of all these different colors of Polaroids, like to pick out all of the pictures and then to size things. I feel like after this week, I should have an honorary degree in graphic design because it has really put me through the ringer. But I will show you, these are some of the first batch I did and they're too small. So I don't really know what I did wrong. So see, you can see just in my hands how small they are, but I went on and decoed these just because I thought they were really, really cute. But the second batch I did, I'll show you, much bigger, basically the actual size of a real Polaroid. Look how little they are. I don't know. These were gingham frames and they were really, really cute. And then after this like gingham success, I was really high on this earlier this week. I decided to do something else plain, and these also wound up being somehow smaller than these gingham ones. I really don't know. I'm really confused, and I use the same software every time. The thing is that I have to like put stuff into Google Docs or something to see where it's going to be on the page when I print it. I don't know. So I really guess I shouldn't have that honorary degree in graphic design because I have not yet figured things out. But I really like the small ones. Like the small ones don't bother me because I think I'll be able to use them a little bit more in journaling. But I mean, this is precious. I love the plain frame so much. So I think I'll stick with that. But the gingham is so cute. It's so cute. Anyways, that's basically what I've spent my time doing this week. All this to say, I still have not finished Sailor Moon. I am over halfway through, and I just think it's so good. It's really fun. And when rereading a favorite book, I often like try to ask myself how much of my enjoyment of this is based on nostalgia. And I think that's a conversation that's worth having when you reread a favorite book, especially something that was a favorite for you when you were much younger, which is the case for me with Sailor Moon. And definitely nostalgia is there. And I don't think if I read this for the first time today, or like if this was the first time I was exposed to Sailor Moon as a story, do I think I would really enjoy it? I think I would enjoy it, but I don't know that I would love it as much as I do, because I'm going into this with knowledge of where the story is going and knowledge of the characters. And I just really love it. And really, frankly, like, look at the art style here. Like, the art style is so cute. It's so much fun. There are these really beautiful, like, colored images throughout that I just think are so cute. And look, there they are at the masquerade ball. Like, don't you just love it? My bookmark is getting in my way. That is so cute. But I'm really thoroughly enjoying this. But I really appreciate the way this is separated out almost into episodes, kind of like the show was. Like, I can tell in this exactly where an episode of the show would have broken before going into the next episode, if that makes any sense. And so I just really enjoy this. I mean, I'm having a lot of fun. I definitely think I'm probably going to give it 5 stars, but I think this is a unique one for me, like compared to others that I think I will tackle in rereading old favorites. Because when I reread Interview with the Vampire last year, I certainly had the feeling that I would have loved it and rated it 5 stars had I picked it up then for the first time. I don't know with Sailor Moon whether or not that's true, if that makes sense. I feel like I would enjoy it, but I think I would register that it was meant for a younger audience, and I just don't know that it would get 5 stars from me. And people talk about that like that's a bad thing, like you should count out your nostalgia or ignore your nostalgia. I don't see the point in that. I mean, really? Enjoy whatever you want to enjoy for whatever reason. And if that's nostalgia, so be it. But I adore this. Just absolutely adore this. I think the interesting thing is going to be comparing this reading experience to reading Fruits Basket. Because to me, it seems like when I was reading Fruits Basket, I was reading it with a group of people. I was reading it because I borrowed it from a friend and then we kind of passed it on to someone else. And so there was always like a community aspect to reading manga. And like at lunch, we all got together and exchanged the next volume and we talked it over, and it was just really fun. And I think that was part of my enjoyment of it, was just having this group of people to talk about it with. Though now BookTube kind of functions for me as a circle of readers where we're all kind of reading similar things and we talk about it. And that's always one of the more exciting things, is when you get to talk to people who have also read the same book and experienced the same excitement. So I think that's going to be interesting, but I'm really encouraged by this experience because I think it means that I'm at least going to enjoy Fruits Basket. Even if I'm not obsessed with it, even if I don't rate it 5 stars today, I think at least I can look forward to the experience and know that the experience is going to be enjoyable. So I finished Sailor Moon yesterday. I really, really enjoyed it. And I rated it 5 stars. And I want to go on and say, and like add a preface to my feelings on Sailor Moon, I feel like if you weren't part of like that initial craze around Sailor Moon, like if you didn't grow up watching Sailor Moon and getting into it kind of in its heyday of the late 90s, early 2000s, I feel like this one is not going to make much sense to you, and I feel like you could very harshly criticize it. And there was part of me that really wanted to like analyze it, and so many times I thought, this doesn't make sense. This moved so quickly, and we didn't get any kind of character development or questioning is maybe the right word. Like as more sailors were added into her squad, like nobody thought, hey, this is strange. Why am I a sailor? She didn't even really question it. And I thought, if this was more realistic, you would be thinking, why me? Why me over somebody else? Why am I somebody who has to be like guardian of the universe or whatever? But I told myself to let it go. Like I was rereading this because I love it and because it was fun the first time around. And I think if you just let it go and you have fun, this is one that you can still really love today. But I think too that a lot of my love for it definitely came from that nostalgia factor, because I was reading it, remembering watching it and talking about it with friends in elementary school. And so there was just something to it that I think is not there for somebody who is just going to pick it up for the first time today. And I have to wonder whether or not the first time reader today as an adult would really love it. But I still think it is a great one to recommend to preteens, early teens, kids. I just feel like this one really has some mass appeal, and I still really loved it. I rated it 5 stars. So kind of the second journey into, is it still a favorite? It's a big success because I also rated this one 5 stars. But I automatically started Fruits Basket last night. It's very early on, but I get the sense this is one that has not aged very well. I feel like particularly there are a couple of components of it that are just weird to me. Like the main character, Toru, moves in with Yugi, who was the love of my life when I was a teenager, and I still love him. She moves in with him and his older cousin. And as a teen and as an adult, I read the older cousin as maybe 24, 25, just somewhere in his 20s. But this dude is really creepy to her, to me. Like he just makes a lot of allusions, and he makes like a lot of kind of snarky, somewhat sexual comments to her. And she is clearly 17 years old. She's in high school. I think she's in her last year of high school. So let's say she's 17 or 18. I just think the conversation and the dynamic between the two of them is weird. And there's all this conversation like, oh, we need a woman's touch in this house. And as a teen, that most certainly would not have bothered me because I don't think I had a point of comparison for it. Today, that reads as weird to me. And I am hopeful that it changes as I read more. I do remember the older cousin as being a little bit weird and being a bit of a flirt. And like, again, that didn't bother me as a teenager, but me now, I'm like, dude, are you like 25 and you're flirting with a 17-year-old? Of course, nothing ever happens between the two of them, but it's just weird. Like the jokes that he's made and the comments that he's made, it's just been a little bit strange to me. But this one is moving so much faster than Sailor Moon was. Sailor Moon was just so much fun. And the chapters were individual, like instances and things for her to do, like individual bad guys she had to defeat. This is more of a continuous story. And this is about like characters who can turn into the animals from the Chinese zodiac. I don't know if I told you that. And I really liked like the mythology of this series when I was a teen. And again, I loved like the romance. There's a love triangle in here, and the end of it made me mad at the time, but now I think I can get behind it. I think I'm going to enjoy it this time around. But the joy of this was really the fact that I got to discuss it with friends while we were reading it, and we would constantly be passing off volumes between us and, oh, don't say that because I haven't gotten there yet. And so there was just like a community aspect to reading this series that I, of course, don't have now on the reread. So I wonder if that's going to affect how I feel when I finish this reread. I'll check in with you later and hopefully I'll have finished it and then I can just wrap up the vlog here. But this has been really fun. I love manga. It's been great to have something that is not quite so heavy to read. I feel like that's really nice and refreshing, especially when I've been dealing with such a big slump this year. I should have been incorporating stuff like this in all along, like just something that's fun and fresh and really enjoyable. And that's why I felt guilty at first that I rated Sailor Moon 5 stars, because I thought on an objective level, is the writing great? Like, does it make sense? As an adult reading this, should I really rate this 5 stars? But you know what? I had fun. And I don't feel like we value having fun in the reading process nearly as much as we should. That's why I'm reading. I'm reading to come down from my day. I'm reading to relax. And part of the reason that I am reading is so that I can have fun. And that is definitely what Sailor Moon was. It was just really, really enjoyable, fun, lighthearted, colorful. I could just so easily envision everything. I mean, it was a full 5 stars for me. It's not even on a nostalgia factor at this point. I just loved it 5 stars. I feel like I'm going to feel the same way about Fruits Basket, but right now there are a couple of oddities there. So I'm interested to see how that changes and develops throughout the rest of volume 1. So I just got out of the shower, but I realized I should have updated you prior to that, because I did in fact finish Fruits Basket yesterday. I read Fruits Basket in under 24 hours. And I don't know what it was about this that made it move so much more quickly than Sailor Moon did. I don't know if it was the size of the Sailor Moon volume, like just because the book was so big, it was a little bit unwieldy to hold. So I feel like it took me a longer amount of time to read that. But this just completely flew by and it was a whole lot of fun. So the character who I had issues with, I feel like it was just his characterization, because he kept constantly making comments towards her. But when Kyo, one of the main characters, like moved into the house, they signed them all up to go to the same high school. And the older cousin, Shigure, he was like, oh, now you're going to get to be around all those young and perky high school girls. And she said, they're his age, so it's okay for him to flirt with high school girls, but not really you. She didn't really say not really you, but I could tell that was her vibe. So I got over that because I felt like the story itself addressed it. What I really love about this is mainly the characters, but specifically I love the main character. I'm not often someone who tends to say the main character of any book is my actual favorite. And I don't really know why that is. I feel like there's got to be a psychological reason that I tend to very rarely be attached to the main character. But I really love Toru because she's just a genuinely sweet and kind and gentle person. And I feel like I say this a lot in real life to people when I'm talking about books that I'm reading. I don't know that I've ever actually said it on my channel, but something to me that's really refreshing is just seeing a genuinely nice person get their happy ending. I feel like there's a tendency to say that that's very boring, or it's not very interesting, or that characters who are designed like that are not interesting to read about. Well, to me, they are. And I just really enjoy and find it refreshing to see people who are gentle and people who are very nice and kind. I want to see them get their happy ending. It's always fun to see like an anti-hero get their happy ending, or like a villain rehabilitate themselves and become good in the end. And that's always fun. And there are elements of that here. But to me, what's so great is Toru as a main character is just a genuinely nice person. And to my memory, nothing in the series changed for her or made her change from being that same really great, sweet person. Like, she was able to keep that all the way through. And to me, that's just really wonderful. I don't know. I'm getting sappy as I get older. And so I'm just really, really charmed by this. I did rate volume 1 5 stars. I don't think it deserves it though. If I'm being honest, and it's not in the same way as Sailor Moon, like Sailor Moon to me had a lot of narrative issues and a lot of questions that I was left with that I don't feel like the plot really addressed in a meaningful way. That was not the case here. I really feel like the story structure was very strong. The characterization was strong. I love the art style. I left my bookmark in here because my favorite illustration I wanted to show you, which is when one of the characters was hugged and turned into a rat. He's the Year of the Rat. But for this, to me, it's just very clear that volume 1 is one of very many in this storyline. Like, you do really need to move forward and read all of them to get the entire story here, in my opinion. And so this one doesn't really necessarily feel like it deserves 5 stars on its own. I think the series overall is one I would rate 5 stars, but do I really think that the volume stands on its own at 5 stars? No. I do feel that way with Sailor Moon, but there was just like an episodic nature to Sailor Moon that wasn't present here. This is a very continuous narrative and plot. I think it's a 4-star book, but I rated it 5 anyway because it's a 5 in my heart. I think this is literally the cutest thing I've ever seen in my life. Like, look at this. Look, there he is when he turned into a rat. Look at him looking at his little hands. It's just absolutely precious. And the images at the front of chapters are just genuinely stunning. I love the art style here. I feel like that's part of what made it so endearing to me as a teenager. There's Kyo. There's Kyo. We love him. This is also definitely for a higher age range than Sailor Moon is because it does feel a little bit more adult, or at least YA. Between the two, do I feel like I enjoyed one more than the other? No, I feel like I enjoyed both of them the same. And I feel like I enjoyed them the way that I did the first time I read them, which is really great and is the whole entire point of me rereading favorites. And so far, I'm so glad to say that this experiment has been a success because the 3 books that I've read for it, I have still rated 5 stars and I have still genuinely loved. Overall, I'm just really glad that I did this. I had a lot of fun reading both of these mangas, and I think it's kind of encouraging me to add more manga into my diet, into my reading diet, to constantly have something that's at least a little bit easier to read and is just genuinely fun. It's nice to me to have something like that between heavier reads, especially when you read a lot of classics like I do, or like dense historical fiction, nonfiction. It's fun to have something that's just nice and lighthearted on the go. And so I'm really glad I did this and I rated both of these 5 stars. I still think on an objective level, Fruits Basket is better. I recognize that a lot of the love I feel for Sailor Moon is because it meant so much to me as a kid. And so I recognize that like my attachment to that is not the attachment I have to Fruits Basket. And if I really think about it, Fruits Basket stands on its own very well. It's still something I would recommend today. It doesn't feel like it's of its time, if that makes sense. But overall, I'm just really, really happy that I did this. And I rated both of these 5 stars and it was just a wonderful experience. So are they both still favorites? Yes. And I feel sure that if I had gotten to read Fushigi Yugi Volume 1 here, that I probably also would have rated that 5 stars just based on the experience that I had with both of these. But I would love to know down below if you read manga, if you have any favorites, if you have read these. But that's going to be all for me today. I hope you're all having a great week. Happy reading. Goodbye.